Hi guys, girls, thanks for looking in. This
Again?
video here is really talking a bit about the part one, which is the theory and hazard perception test. I'm Chris and this is Helen, and we're just going to have an informal chat about it really. A lot of people don't put enough emphasis on the part one. We find that with learners, but more importantly we also find it with our PDIs, don't we?
Unfortunately, yes.
But unfortunately a lot of people think because it's multiple choice then eventually you're going to pass it. The problem being is once they pass it, they tend to put the books away. Have you found that?
I think a lot of PDIs would tend to think that they can pass it fairly easily, and there is an easy way to pass the Part 1 test, and that is purely to basically do what we call learning by rote, which is memorising all the answers that you get wrong and keep doing it until you can just get them right. But it doesn't mean to say that you understand what's in the questions. And I think that's a real huge problem.
It is, definitely. And what doesn't get, there's not enough emphasis put on the importance of part one, because what people don't realise is that part one's just at the first stage. You've then got two further tests to do. You've got the driving ability test, which is the part two, and then the test of instructional ability, which is the part three. But they are all interlinked, and if you skimp on this first part, then it's going to cost you fortunes to qualify, because you will struggle. You'll struggle with the part two and you'll struggle with part three.
Why will they struggle?
Well, if you think about it, the part one is, although it is a multiple choice test, it's the knowledge of the laws of the road, the traffic signs, you know.
So what you're actually
limits.
saying, sorry to interrupt Chris, what you're actually saying, am I right in thinking that it's a reawakening, it's revisiting the knowledge that perhaps they should have learned some of when they took their first driving test?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
As a learner?
You know, when guys and girls come to us as PDIs and you say, right, you're going to do your part two test, and it's a test of driving ability, they come out with things like, well, I've been driving for 10, 15 years, I've never had an accident, you know, I clock 20,000 miles a year, I've never had points on my licence, so it's going to be easy. Well, it may well seem like it's going to be easy, but it's not about whether you're going to crash a car or get points on your licence.
Okay.
It's about understanding the rules of the road.
Which is what you get from the part one.
Well, it's what you get out of your theory, yeah. If you learn the theory, I mean, one of the things I found when I first trained to become a driving instructor, and bearing in mind I used to travel all over the UK as a company driver, as a manager, I thought my driving was fantastic. Had a clean licence, never had an accident in my life, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be a doddle. Within so many hours with a good trainer, I suddenly realised that, you know what, there are so many signs, there are so many road signs. If you actually went for a 10-minute drive and counted the amount of road signs you see, you'd be amazed. And the thing is, as drivers, we develop this tunnel vision.
You've hit on a very good point there, Chris. So what is in a nutshell, what is the part one all about? Because I'm sure there'll be people out there that don't understand what the part one is involved.
Well, if you think about it, the part one, it's a multiple choice test. You've got 100 questions. It's in 4 bands. You'll find more about that in the text that's below this video.
Okay.
So I don't really want to go into too much detail about that, but it's about understanding what the sign means and the rules relating to that sign and how you should approach it. And you get that by putting a lot of studying on the theory side.
Very good point again. So what study material should we be recommending for part one?
Well, if you pass me those books that are in that pocket of the car there, and these are reference manuals that every driving instructor. So there's the first one. Now I've got through hundreds of these as a driving instructor, because you know, I do know my stuff, honest, but I still, they get updated, they get re-released.
So this one is
that's the DSA Driving Essential Skills, and it should become your Bible as a driving instructor.
Okay, so you would recommend buying this for anyone doing the part one?
Oh yeah, definitely, they've got to have that book. Because this tells you exactly what the DSA, the standard the DSA expects you to drive to, and they expect you as an instructor to teach your learners.
Okay,
so
thank you very much.
That's got to become reading.
Then we've got this one.
Now this one, you can see how worn out that is, and it's not that old actually, but it's a highway code. So it's the rules and regulations of the road, basically. It tells you what you can and can't do. So again, it's you as an instructor, to get through your theory test, you need to understand what the highway code's all about. But again, it's what you're going to teach your learners. And when you do your part 2 test, your driving ability test, which is the next stage, the rules in this, if you don't understand them, you don't know them, then you won't obey the rules when you're driving for that hour part 2 test, and you'll fail your test.
And I also think as well, you need to actually, when you do become an instructor, it looks a lot better when a pupil asks you a question and you can actually just come out with the answer rather than, hang on a minute, I need to check.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
If you can really understand all of this, you need to learn it, as Chris says, so that you can, it just comes to you and there's no hesitation. And that will become quite important on the part 3 as well. And I'm not going to mention any more about that at the moment. So the other book that we want you to have a look at is this one.
Looks nice and shiny, doesn't it? It's not because it's not used, it's because it's almost brand new. Because it's got as tatty as the last one. What's the importance of this? Well, again, it's traffic signs. It's all about the traffic signs and road markings. You know, what does a solid white line mean down the middle of the road? And how many people are going to turn around and say, oh, you can't overtake? You know, it's the first thing that comes out their mind. That's not what the rules say. It's not about don't overtake, you can't cross.
Okay.
You know, so learning that is very important. And all this comes together because if you don't put the study in and you don't understand the subject that you're being tested on, when you drive on your part 2, you're going to fail because you crossed a white line that you didn't understand the rule for. And when you go to do your part 3 test and the examiner's role playing a pupil, he's going to want to extract certain information out of you, and he's going to do certain things wrong on the road when he's driving that you're supposed to spot and deal with. If you don't understand what you're supposed to be doing, what chance do you stand? So
I'm going to drag you back in towards the part 1 again.
Yeah, well, that's where what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's so related to the rest of the qualifying process.
Yeah.
And I always find that when people come to us for rescue training, because they've had 2 attempts at part 3, or they've had 2 attempts at part 2, and they're now panicking because you only get the 3, or you've got to wait another 2 years. I always find it's through lack of knowledge. They don't understand the subject, they don't understand the rules. And you sit there and you do feel sorry for them, but you think, well, you know what? If you just spent that a little bit longer reading these books and making sure...
Absorbing the knowledge.
Yeah, and absorbing that. So when you sit in front of that computer screen in your part 1 and that question comes up, you don't need to look at the 4 options they give you, because the answer's there in your head. You say, right, I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes easy. So the message I want to get across, and I'm sure you do too, is we can't do that training for you. So you're not going to pay us. You can if you like. If you want to come and have some theory sessions with us, and we're more than happy to do so. And certainly you can phone us up and we can talk about things you might discover that you don't understand, a rule that you think, well, that's wrong, I never used to do that. By all means, give us a ring. But really, this is where you've got to take ownership for your own journey. If you are not prepared to put the effort in and read these books, study them, understand them, and take in that knowledge, then you're going to make things very, very hard.
For yourself.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, you know, don't skimp on it.
Please do. This was really ever only intended as a short conversation about the part 1, but please feel free to ring either Chris or I for advice, and we can definitely point you in the right direction. And if there are some of you out there that might have special needs, it doesn't stop you from being an instructor. We can point you in the right direction as well. So that's the main message of this is for you to say you need to understand what is involved in the part 1, and you need to absorb all of the knowledge.
There's another book here that's another one. You'll notice that they are DSA publications, these. It's the Driving Standards Agency are the people that set the tests, all 3 tests, and they're the ones that are going to decide whether you're going to become a driving instructor or not. So again, we get people that come and say, oh, I've done ROSPA, you know, I've done all the advanced driving tests. Well, that's great, but that's not the standard that you're going to be tested on. So this one is another one I'd advise any budding instructor to get that wants to be, you know, because it tells you how the learner does the driving test. So it's the official guide to learning to drive. This is the syllabus the DSA expects you to take. and it's another one you should have on your shelf. There's loads of others. We could go on for ages. What we're kind of trying to get across to you is don't skimp. You know, put the effort in.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, guys.
See you soon. Bye.